What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Dope and Tape Show. It is episode 160, and we're really close to episode 200. I'm not sure what we're going to do for that one, but I'm sure we're going to find some way to make it big. It's definitely a milestone. Tonight we have Mark Hopkins. Mark Hopkins is a good friend of the show's friend, Janine Meisman. So she introduced us at AFSA in Denver this year, and we scheduled this, and we're really excited to hear his story. And I think it's a bit of a different take than kind of what we're used to hearing. So it's another avenue. It's another pathway that you could take. Tonight we're also sponsored by FireTech. We love those guys. I think it's the best online course as well as in-person courses that you can go to. I've been to the Master Fire Pump class, I don't know, maybe 3 times now, with the GOAT of fire pumps, the greatest of all time, Wills Lacrosse. We love him. We need to get him back on the show.
We got to get him
Man, I
back on.
haven't talked to
He's
him in a
such a
minute. I know
personality.
we get it was just so much knowledge, you know.
Janine, first comment from Janine.
Oh, that's a new one.
Let's go. And Chandler, my guy. Bro
What's
was
up, Chandler?
sweaty today. We could talk about Chandler's day in a little bit. First live
Yeah.
I've been able to tune into a bit. Good to see you. Thank you for tuning in, Quinn. Appreciate it. But also, Janine. Welcome,
The
Janine.
discounted discounted courses with FireTech that we have currently, they're about to change. I think they're going to change in 2 weeks, but it is not the intermediate fire pump course, which I think we're going to do next. Discount on that. This is a little bit more advanced. I think it's like fire pump layout if you're an installer, and then it also gets into the particulars of the fire pump and readings and how to test it and get a little bit more in depth. So that one's discounted under $100. I think it's like $94, $95, something like that. But it's a great course. Everybody will learn something from it. And then the second one is their first Spanish course, which is fire alarms. So they're starting to get into Spanish courses, which is awesome. I'm really excited about that.
Steven or
With
Stefan?
Arco, I handle the Latin America division of Arco, and I'm talking and I'm hanging out with all these companies and a lot of fitters and engineers, business owners in Latin America, and I think it's really needed to get a NFPA focused course in Spanish. I'm not sure. It might exist somewhere else, but I'm not sure. But bring in like fire techs specialty, you know, and how in depth they are to Latin America. You know, I think I'm really excited about that. Anytime we can share knowledge, I'm with it. And Mark, hey Mark, thank you so much for coming to hang out with us on the Dope and Tape Show.
Well, thanks for having me. I feel honored to be part of it.
Yeah, we appreciate you.
Looking
Yeah,
forward. So
we're really excited. So kind of what we're doing here with the Dope and Tape Show is creating a community, giving fire protection professionals and people that are thinking about fire protection a place to go, a place to talk to people, the place to be involved and you know, communicate with others. And then we're really big on Instagram. People are sharing stories to us, and we go back and forth and we comment. Everybody's showing what they're doing every day, and I think that's really cool. You could really feel like the community is growing on the Instagram, definitely on the younger side. I would say the future of fire protection. One day there's going to be a transition, you know.
Steven, you
in
heard
the
me.
industry.
What's up, Flo? What's up, Flo? I had to reach out to Flo today. I'm going mega viral on a driving video, and someone said that I passed the vibe check and I was invited to the Asada. And so I had to screenshot that and I had to send it to Flo because I didn't know what that meant, but he said that was good.
Ugh,
Huh?
awesome.
I made
I
it.
don't know what that is either.
I made it. I'm invited. I'm invited to the cookout.
You're invited to something,
So
huh?
we kind of got to give props to Janine again for setting this up. I think for linking this up. Janine has been a great supporter, and I have to give her a little credit for why you're here right now.
Yeah, I was with Janine earlier today.
Oh, she's
So
great.
just got
That
Oh,
back from
nice.
Florida.
that
Yeah.
that's like a job perk being able to work with her.
Yeah, I've known her for a long time, and it's great working with her. So yeah, she's a high energy person, so we need that.
That's yeah, that's awesome. That's why
Yeah,
we get along
definitely.
well. So
Yeah.
let's let's talk about the beginning of your career, like how you started at this. What started you down this path?
Uh, I um I I can thank my dad or blame my dad, maybe both. Um, so he was a contractor in Northwest New Jersey, and I wanted to make some money and started working for him and doing sprinkler installation and really young, but learned a lot. And he pushed me into it, and um, very thankful for having the opportunity to work in the field and put sprinkler systems in, and eventually got into doing inspections and testing, and and then kind of morphed into engineering, and he had pushed me into, engineering from, doing the layout side of things, but it was kind of a fight for me because I love doing the field work, and I like climbing the ladders and putting the pipe up, and it's a hard day's work, but it's an honest day's work, and you can see what you've accomplished at the end of the day. And so that's kind of where I started. You know, doing installation. I was a gopher for a long time. Go for this, go for that. And I worked up. I functioned in pretty much every position role from the bottom up. And when my dad passed away, I took over the company with my brother for a short period. But at that point, I had already gone through uh, undergraduate school for engineering and graduate school, and my passion at that point was engineering, and I thought I was going to be doing fire testing, which is nothing like what I do now. I do some, but
Yeah.
but not as much as I thought I was going to be doing.
When
Um,
you say fire testing, what is that?
Low, like full scale fire testing. 'Cause I went to school at University of Maryland in fire protection engineering, and I was somewhat of a lab rat too. I was TA for four different semesters between undergrad and grad school, so I was using all the lab equipment, teaching pyrometrics of materials to younger students, and so it cut all the samples, teach them how to use the test equipment, just burning things. And
Oh, so you're actually studying fire.
oh yeah, fire,
Wow.
fire
Yeah.
sprinkler layout, yeah, all of it.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, so it was a pretty interesting pathway. Um, but yeah, so I enjoyed like burning things and putting the fires out and figuring out what's going on.
Yeah,
So
that sounds awesome. I
yeah,
want to do that.
yeah. And it's kind of cool. And I thought that's what I would be doing every day, but now it's once in a while. So had some really big fires that I was part of. One was a roof system where the intention was to see if you could burn the roof off the structure. Big fire, but um,
Did you
Yeah.
get the roof off?
yeah, no, well, it not the whole thing, but we did a free burn, and then we did a test where we had sprinklers underneath, and fire underneath. It was a room corner scenario where fire was started, and then we had sprinklers at the ceiling. So looking at the interaction of the sprinklers and how well the sprinklers would limit involvement of a roof assembly, and that was built up roof with polystyrene. So that
Huh.
was pretty interesting test. And there's something where you have plastic on top of a corrugated metal. You see burning droplets of flame coming down. and then, taking that free burn and then having the sprinklers inside, seeing how effective the sprinklers actually are in protecting it. And that's, sort of the background for some of the materials that are in the I codes in chapter, I think it's 26. Yeah.
Oh,
So,
that's
You
yeah.
pretty
know,
cool.
that's been a big problem in Atlanta. This year, there was two roofs, two or three. I know for sure two that it was really bad. So one instance, someone setting off fireworks ended up catching the roof on fire of an apartment complex, and then the whole roof, majority of the structure was just gone. And then the second one, someone rolled up a grill, and it was a gas grill, and they put charcoal in it, and the fire got out of hand on the grill. So
Oh,
then it caught the roof on fire of another apartment complex and destroyed that one. And it seems like, with the sprinkler system that's protecting the floor, they're pointed down, or I don't know, they might be upright. I'm not sure the orientation in the attic, but the roof, man, it went up.
yeah.
Yeah, they still always protect the floor.
Sprinklers are effective from the fire starting inside. Certainly, if it
Hmm.
comes from the outside the building, it's not going to do a whole lot. That's why we
Yeah.
don't, because sprinklers have been brought up a lot with the wildland fires, and fires coming from outside the building, and they can be effective, but it's really hard when you have a fire coming from the outside of the structure and it's of
The whole
significant
outside could be
size.
engulfed.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I
Um,
wonder what you might know, but I'm not really sure what would happen to that individual. Like, both of them are mistakes. I get it, but
yeah.
they both happened by an individual. I don't know how that would work like on the insurance side or legally, if there's a law that was broken. Um, I'm not sure what would happen to someone like that. I'm sure something, you
Yeah,
know.
I mean that's kind of up to the fire marshal's office, right? And how or the police or maybe a combination and how far they're willing to dig at it.
Mark, you were flying around today?
Yeah, I was in Florida this morning, so I started
Yeah.
the day in Florida in Melbourne at the Florida Fire Marshals and Inspectors Association.
Yeah, Janine says Mark
Um,
is a hero. Today he was teaching a class for me at 7:30 a.m. in Florida after catching a late night flight to get here, and then he flew back home and raced to get on the Dope and Tape show.
yeah, that's a lot. That's a
Yeah,
long day.
that is a long
It,
day, and Janine makes it sound great by putting us in at the end there. What's up, Tommy?
so if I just nod off, that's why.
Yeah, no,
Right, right.
no,
We're,
we'll try we'll try to keep Brian's stories to a minimum so you don't fall asleep.
right.
Thanks.
So
Sorry,
you
Brian.
you went to college. You went to college for engineering, and then
Yeah,
you went into testing and
Drum roll.
yeah.
doing the lab work. And at what point did you venture off away from that, and what did you do?
So so I I went back and I worked as a sprinkler contractor for a couple of years, and but my passion at that point in time was to be more involved as an engineer. So I joined a company called Hughes Associates, right? And at
Right,
that point in time, I think there were somewhere around 80 people, and that company has eventually become what's known as Jensen Hughes, which now has, I don't know, 1,300 or 1,400 people. Right, so big
right,
company, very very different from when I started, but there were some phenomenal people that were running the company at that point in time. Phil Deneno, I don't know if you know that name, but Phil
I don't.
Phil was really big in the industry. He was the one that came up with the idea for the fire protection engineering handbook, and Ed Budnick, who worked for NIST for a number of years and was the chair for the correlating committee, and he actually was representing all the different seats on NFPA 13.
Oh wow.
And so I thank Ed for helping me to get involved in the NFPA 13 committee. So I
Thank
have
you,
a
Ed.
brother who's 2 years younger, and he had basically taken the NFPA 13 seats and said to us, I want to give, Mark, you're going to do these seats, and Don, you're going to do these seats, and eventually, you'll be alternates for each other, and so kind of work up. And so I had a chance to be his alternate for a while, and then took over. So I've been on, at that point, was on the residential committee. I've been on the installation committee, the discharge committee, hanging and bracing, correlating. So I've been on most of them at this point.
So what's it constitute being on those committees? I'd like to know what are you being on all those committees, right? Are you flying
Yeah.
around to meetings? Are you doing Zoom meetings? How often are you doing committee things? It's
Yeah.
gonna be something Brian and I are gonna be kind of diving into soon.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
fantastic. It is an investment. You do have to invest time and money. So you have three, or I guess sometimes there's a pre-first draft meeting, and so you may have to travel for that. Oftentimes now they're doing like a Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting for that pre-first draft, but sometimes it's in person, and they typically move around the country. So sometimes they're on the East Coast, sometimes on the West. It seems now a lot of times they're trying to target the center of the country, Indianapolis, Kansas City, places like that. Yeah, so you have a pre-first draft meeting, and you talk about all the public inputs that come in. So, you have to understand the NFPA code cycles, and I'm talking as a person now, not advocating for NFPA or anything, but the code cycle starts out with the public inputs. So NFPA 13 2028 will be open. I think it might even be open now, but I think it opens in January for public input. So we just had the 2025 edition that was released, a month and a half, 2 months ago, and we're already talking about 2028. So, it takes a while to get things into the document and change. So you start with the public inputs. NFPA staff liaison will take those public inputs, and they'll sort of carve them out for the different parts of the committee. So NFPA 13 has a correlating committee, which is responsible for making sure it functions with all other standards, and that each of the chapters work together. Then there's the hanging and bracing committee, dealing obviously with support and hanging. That committee is likely to dissolve in the near future because we now have NFPA 200 that's being developed. So I've been on that committee, 3 different representations, one through NFSA when I was there, then through TERP Consulting, and now with Summit Fire Consulting. But that one is going to be the next document that is developed for hanging and bracing, and that's going to cover all fire suppression, fire protection
hanging
systems.
and bracing.
Hanging, bracing, and support. So it's going to go into issues like supporting tanks and fire pumps, and so beyond just sprinkler.
Oh,
support.
That's great. That's going to be awesome. That's NFPA 200. I'm excited for that.
Yep. And it is available online now. You can go and see sort of the preliminary first draft there.
And so if there's any mistakes on it, it's your fault?
Oh, it's all my fault. Only on Tuesdays, though. No, I mean, there's a lot of different people involved. I think there are about 40 plus or minus people on that committee.
Okay.
And there's some really good folks, and there's been a lot of hard work on that. But then, 13 committee also has installation committee, right? And now it's covering a bunch of different chapters, because now we have installation requirements for the different sprinkler types, pipe and valves, and so on. And then the discharge committee, which deals with the design criteria, commodity classifications, occupancy hazard classifications, and so on. And all of them share chapter 3 and 4, right? Or primarily 3 with definitions. And then chapter 4, I think, is installation and discharge committee. And then the other 2 committees are the private water supplies committee, which, covers the chapter in 13, NFPA 24, and NFPA 291. So NFPA 200 is going to function like NFPA 24, essentially, where the materials are modified in one document, extracted back into NFPA 13. and it'd be NFPA 2000, all of those other standards that, 2001 or whatnot, where they extract the criteria into those other standards. And then the last one is the residential committee, which covers NFPA 13D and R. So
You're a fountain
yeah.
of knowledge. Thank you,
Yeah.
Janine.
Yeah.
Well, I see why
How
she
do
wanted
you
you to be on the
feel?
show.
Yeah. When you feel like when you just started the community to now, like how do you feel how it's
Oh,
changed? You feel like it's changed in a positive way, it's grown.
it's
What's your
it's
thoughts?
it's amazing. Like, when you first start out, you feel like the outsider, right? I don't know anything. Why am I here? Am I worthy to be part of this? And just being involved, to volunteer a lot, listen. Um, at first it starts with listening a lot. Listen to the arguments, see how people approach the discussion, and then start getting involved in task groups. And so that even before getting on a committee, you can attend a meeting and become part of a task group. And it's a good way to put your toe in the water and get involved, because then you start really getting into the details of why the requirements are in place and why they're changing. And so, it it it's interesting because as you start to see the documents evolve, it's like you've had a part in it. And so now I've I've been involved for, I don't know, 15, 16 years, long enough that I don't remember exactly how long, right? Um, and it and I've been a part of a lot of different committees. And I'm the kind of person, I have a problem, I always put my hand up, right? I've been
Right.
told I have a bad case of helium hand because it always goes up and I say yes. I don't know how to say no. So it's just volunteer and get involved and stay involved. And if you start down that road, good things happen. And you watch people. There are a lot of really good people in our industry, right? Like Pete Schwab. Pete Schwab's got comments in every different document every time, and it's like, when I first started, I watched him, and have grown to become pretty good friends with him and George Stanley and a lot of these other people. And it's so it becomes more than just different people on the committees. You start to become friends with people and start sharing views, and it's good to have opposing views too. So we don't agree. Not everybody on the committees agrees on everything. It's good to have good debate and to and to really help things to change in a positive way.
Right.
So, yeah, sorry, it was a little more than you asked, but
No, that was a
No,
great
but
answer.
it's exactly kind of what we were wanting. All right, so you got on the committee, you were doing
yeah,
some fire tests, but not much, but you were working for a contractor.
yeah.
How long did you work for the contractor for?
That was an engineering firm. Um,
Engineering firm. Okay.
so yeah, and I've kind of stayed in engineering mostly, but I've been involved with like on the sprinkler design side a lot. So, a lot of times I'm doing the field work with contractors, engaging contractors, doing a lot of work together. One of the things that I think I was talking to you guys about in Denver was doing internal pipe examinations, right?
Yes.
And, from the NFPA 25 standpoint, and really going beyond what NFPA 25 is looking for. But NFPA 25 is kind of like, you're picking at something, and you're looking to see if there's a problem. And a lot of what I've done in that regard is worked with contractors to open up systems and really look pretty extensively at what's going on from a corrosion standpoint. And then that's a subject matter that I've kind of studied on my own. I had the opportunity working for Hughes. I had an opportunity to work with Dan Verdonick, who was a PhD, and he had his PhD was actually in material science, and so he helped to guide me in terms of understanding, how corrosion functions, and so it was studying it from from a scientific standpoint as well as from a physical, practical standpoint.
Why? How come sometimes it's so bad?
What's that?
How come sometimes corrosion is so bad in some
Oh,
pipes, and some pipes it's not that bad? Sometimes you get it like and the pipe just gets smaller and smaller. Other times you see like blisters almost that start to form on the side of the pipe. It's just what's causing all those things?
there's a lot going on. I mean, there's no one answer to anything, right? So it's with most things in fire protection, it depends, right? Um, so sometimes there was a period in time where everything was called MIC, right?
Yes.
Right.
Microbiologically influenced corrosion.
That's
But then
still
people also
that's
say
still the
that
word.
it's
That's
not
still
a
the
thing
word people
anymore.
want to say. People want to still
Yeah.
say that word.
Because people don't understand it and it's easy to blame it. But there are other more practical things or causes for it, for why corrosion is happening, right? We've changed design approaches. We've moved away from pipe schedule systems where everything had an inherent taper and drained back to a singular location or a couple of locations. And we size pipe to have uniform diameter because of cost reasons, economy, right? So as we start doing things like that, we don't have that same tapering. So one of the things that I found out, I don't know when, but at some point in my career, was that wet pipe systems actually were required to be pitched. So
Right.
now we only see it with dry pipe and pre-action systems, but quote unquote, back in the day, wet pipe systems also required pitching. And so as sprinkler protection expanded into all kinds of different occupancies, some of the requirements were backed off in order to allow for installations to be practical. And one of those was that if you have a wet system, you're not really concerned about water drainage, so you can install systems without pitch. Or you're not really concerned about freezing either. So, but it's one of those things. It's like with the pitch, you get the drainage of water, but you also have some migration of air. And we've taken the inspector's test and moved it from, the most remote branch line essentially to anywhere just downstream of the flow switch.
Yeah,
So now we get
right
this
at the
huge,
riser.
yeah,
It's right at the riser now,
exactly.
always.
Yeah, because it's the most cost effective, right? Least amount of pipe, everything's right there. One person can do everything. So, yeah, I mean, those kinds of things, all those little tiny changes all have an effect. So, MIC is real, right? I mean, bacteria does play into corrosion too, but it's not the only thing. And that's something that I've spent the past, probably 20, 25 years sort of working against MIC and trying to figure out those other reasons why corrosion is occurring.
I got to give it to you, Mark. That was a damn good answer.
Thanks, man.
What do you think's the most contributing thing for corrosion? I'm trying to put it together in words here. Would you say it's like? Would you say it's like oxygen?
Try again.
Or yeah, I know. Like, what's causing the most amount of corrosion and piping?
Yeah, what has the biggest impact, I guess, is what you're asking, right?
Yeah.
And
don't mind
him.
him.
It really is, right? I mean, it's
live show,
yeah. Rust happens from, I mean, it's rust, right? We've learned that from time we're kids in grammar school, right? It's water, air, and metal, right? So it's not something, it's physics. It happens. So, when we get this abundance of trapped air in the sprinkler systems, that's what drives it. So in wet system where you have large pockets of trapped air, stays in place. And so if you have very small amount of air, the system is tight, more susceptible for water hammer. and pressure surges, that kind of stuff. But so the air is functioning in a good way, from that perspective. But the air, when it gets pressurized, it forces the oxygen into the water, so it becomes dissolved, and it forms gases inside of the water, and that's what supports the corrosion, right? So if it's under atmospheric condition, you have less oxygen going back into the water. When you add pressure, starts to drive more of that oxygen into the water. That's what's driving the corrosion in those applications. So, what in essence we've done is we've created systems that trap a lot more air. So if you purge the air out and if you can purge the air out, and that's what we used to use the inspectors tests for, or in some cases, fitters would back out sprinklers and let air migrate out.
I worked with an old fellow that would make me do that.
Yeah.
Anytime we filled, he would want to head out until you got water, and then you'd be up there trying to jam it back in.
Yeah, it's fun. I've been there too, man. It's
Yeah,
but
and
that's the way it was done, right? But whether they knew what they were doing from that perspective, I think it was also to try and control air from moving around, so you keep the flow switch from operating, right? So
false trips.
yeah. So some of the stuff that was happening may have been just coincidence, right? But doing a better job of corrosion protection. But all those old systems, and you probably still see it in New England, right? You open up the system, it has that black layer on the inside. That's hematite, and that's a form of iron oxide. And if the system can achieve that, then that's providing the protection, which is why you have these old systems that last for 50 or 100 years or whatever.
Forever.
I've worked on systems that were put in 1905, right? 1909. And because North Jersey, New York,
Right there.
Pennsylvania, all that area, old buildings, old systems, and they always had that distinct smell, but they always had that black layer on the inside, and that was providing corrosion protection. And so now we've got all this air, so it never reaches that passive condition, and it's always undergoing some level of corrosion. So that's partly why they corrode faster. The other thing is we've got changes in joining methods and changing in material type and thickness, right? So we see a lot more engineered pipe that, quote unquote, Schedule 7 pipe. So it's significantly thinner in its pipe wall than Schedule 40 pipe. And then we wonder why it's corroding out a lot faster.
And
It's like,
especially Schedule 40 pipe from back in the day,
right.
which is way different than even Schedule 40 pipe today. I feel like it used
Yeah.
to be thicker. But
Yeah.
so we got Chandler in the comments saying to install an air release on the highest point. Actually, the sprinkler nerd saying that too. Purge vents. Install air release at the highest point. And I guess that's to let the air out that you're speaking of. What's going on, sprinkler nerd?
So that came in the 2016 edition of NFP 13.
Oh, Tommy, that's a low blow, Tommy. Sorry, Mark.
No, you're okay. So the air vents came in 2016, but in all reality, there were air vents that were being used at least a decade earlier, and maybe even earlier than that. And a lot of times, they were being used either as a manual vent, having just a valve up at a high location, and with some means of manually opening it. Certainly not in a warehouse that's, the system is 40, 70 feet above the floor. That's not practical, right? You have to be able to access that type of valve. But then we started seeing manufacturers coming out with the automatic air vents as well. And so that preceded what is in 13 today as a requirement. So that those types of vents were being used back in, I don't know, 2006, 7, 8 timeframe.
Okay, I've seen older ones.
Yeah, and there were older ones, and standpipes also have vents, right? So you go to a lot of parking garages where they have standpipes. You often see an air vent. It looks or an air release looks very similar to what you see on a fire pump, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
So
So
yeah,
get
but
the get the air
yeah,
out.
venting can work, but the problem is the way 13 handles it, right? It's a consensus standard, so means everybody walks away equally unhappy. Um, it, so the requirement was originally intended to be at the system high point, and so now that is very hard to interpret, and so I think there was a lot of concern that be misappropriated. That's why it was changed to near a high point, right?
Mm.
Okay.
And the other problem is there are a lot of systems that have multiple high points, and so really theoretically we should have multiple vents, right? Picture a warehouse with all the branch lines, gridded system with all the branch lines at the peak, where you have a peaked roof, and now every single branch line has a high point. So putting it on one is kind of like just, a drop in the bucket there. It's not really doing a whole lot because you're expecting the air to migrate back down the branch lines through the cross main and back up to the high point to the vent. Not real practical.
No, not at
Right?
all.
Um, so FM has some guidance in their documents that would actually suggest putting in a tie-in pipe. So a 1-inch line going from branch line to branch line. And then if you were to add that vent at that high point, you'd actually be picking up the air off of all those branch lines. So, kind of changes the hydraulics, changes the system a little bit, but it does have that at least theoretical value of getting that extra air out. Yeah, so the dry systems are the other. You flip that, and now it's where the trapped water is the problem, and that's happening for a variety of reasons. We're using roll grooved pipe in dry systems. Anytime you have a roll groove in a dry system, guess what? You've trapped water. I've seen as much as a 30-degree incline with the grooves still trapping water. That where I saw it was in Alaska. So it was so cold for most of the year that it would just freeze. And once you get down to freezing, there's no corrosion. So the amount of corrosion that was I saw, the damage I saw was happening over about a 4 to 6 month period out of the year. And so it was about 20 years of corrosion that would look like about a year or 2 years in anywhere in the continental U.S.
Oh
So
wow.
that same system down here would have been probably would have been replaced in that period of time. So the roll grooves, also when air compressors heat up, they bring in more water vapor. That water vapor condenses inside, collects, pools at the bottom. I think that's probably a secondary effect to, just having those trapped areas where it just traps water. And so
That's where you
now
get ice blocks from.
ice blocks too. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. That's not fun. It's usually on Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve. You get a call. Yeah. Our dry pipe system froze and you're pulling out pipe and thawing it out with a torch in the parking lot.
Right.
Right.
Oh
Been
man.
there, done that one.
Yep.
Yeah, I've done that too.
Yeah. But
Yep.
but it's the same basic recipe, right? It's there now. You have a big giant pocket of air and a small amount of water, and that will become very corrosive very quickly. So
Okay.
yeah. So
You've been
hopefully
all
that
over.
answers
So
your
you were
question.
staying in Alaska?
I went up there. I did a project for the National Park Service, and I looked at 19 different buildings. They all had dry systems. And so I did internal investigations on all 19 systems.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was a pretty neat experience.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, it was.
That is
Yeah, it was kind of freaky because we got there before tourist season, and the day it was supposed to travel up, they had a little storm, and it was snowing, and the snowflakes were coming down the size of quarters and half dollars. And here, if we see that, it's over pretty quickly. There, it was going from, I think our flight was, I don't know, 6 in the morning or something. So we were trudging over to the airport in the snow at 5 in the morning, and we got there only to wait. And we waited until 9 o'clock when they finally said there's no flights out today, and it was still
oh
snowing. So then we had to go and catch a ferry up through the locks, and
Oh
yeah, it was
wow.
kind of a neat experience. And then so we get up to the site where we're working. There were 500 people there, and it was tourist area where they have cruise ships come in, and so on a busy day, a single cruise ship might let off 10 to 15,000 people. We're talking 500 people in the entire town. And it was, you talk about feeling alone, like when it was my uh, in the house where they put us up. So they gave us one of the quarters where the staff would live during the season. And this big house, 3-story house, and like 10 bedrooms or something. And I was sitting there by myself in the living room. There were no curtains on the windows, and it was just pitch black, and there was like nothing going on. Nothing. I mean, no noise, nothing. It was the eeriest feeling ever. And so as we go through the period, I think I was there for 10 days. At the end of it, there were 5,000 people in the town, and it was just like bustling. So first night we got there, we went to a restaurant. We walked in, we sat down, we ate, and we were out of there in like less than an hour. The last night we were there, we went in, we had to put our name in, we were on a wait list, so it was
right.
kind of a cool
Oh
experience.
wow.
So yeah,
From
and
one extreme to the next.
yeah, and that's also where I have some cool pictures where I found welding scarves, you know, uh, welding trimmings from the actual manufacturing of the pipe inside some of those systems, and they
Oh,
had been in there for 20 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Oh, like the you
and
that's
found
not
what
good.
the you found the
Jeez.
cutouts, the coupons?
yeah, no, not the coupons. So when electric resistance welded pipe is made, it's cold formed, so it's rolled, and the two sides come together. A really large current is induced, which forms the weld. And then there are two uh, tools that scarf off the weld on the inside and outside of the pipe, and then it chops them into pieces about 12 inches long or so. And so the equipment that was scarfing the welds on the inside had left the trimmings on the inside of the pipe, so it was the actual weld from the seam of the pipe itself.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
What a find.
yeah. And well, picture we're using a push camera. We're 110 feet, you know, of camera line into the system, and we see this, and we're like, so we stood there looking at this for a few minutes. There were 4 or 5 of us there. We're looking at it like, what's your guess? What is that? And so we kind of looked at it, and the one guy's like, I've done welding. It's a weld. He's like okay, like all right. So
Right.
we sort of the camera we were using had an indicator, so it gave us an approximate distance into the pipe. So we were able to kind of narrow it down to where we thought it was. We went, opened up the nearest coupling, groove coupling, opened it up, pulled the pipe apart, and sure enough, we were able to go in there and fish it out, and we found a bunch of weld trimmings. So there were like 3 or 4 of them. On the camera, it looked like it was 15 feet long, but it was only about 12 inches.
Oh wow. You might have saved
So
somebody's life getting that thing out of there.
yeah, I don't know about that, but you never know.
Maybe someday.
Yeah, find all
Someday.
kinds of weird things in the pipe.
What's the weirdest thing?
Um,
Can
I
you talk
didn't
about
find it,
it?
but I have heard from two different people where they one found a cat in the sprinkler pipe, and there was
Oh,
actually a LinkedIn post recently where somebody found a cat in a fire pump.
Oh
Right?
yeah,
man,
that's
Yeah,
different.
yeah.
that's sad.
But two by fours, beer cans, shoes, boots, gloves, tools. I mean, all kinds of weird stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
People are
I mean,
throwing
that's the
stuff
big
down
thing
there.
too. Like when you're building like a standpipe in a stairwell in a new construction, and you have an open pipe, people would throw their bottles in there, or trash and whatever.
Kobe.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what they do.
So, man, so you were working at an engineering firm, went
Yeah,
up to Alaska. Um, you were on these committees.
yeah.
At, at what point did you venture off from there?
I I called up Russ Fleming. So I don't know if you know Russ. He was
Well, so you might get us in trouble if you keep asking us that because I'll guarantee you
yeah,
Janine told us
oh,
all these
yeah,
names and
okay,
she's told
Yeah.
us a lot of names and we've maybe even been
yeah.
introduced, but it's a lot of names to remember, Mark.
It's a lot.
Russ Fleming. Um, yeah, Russ Fleming he was huge in the NFSA. He was their vice president of engineering, became president of the association for a number of years.
Okay.
Brilliant guy. Um, and then Ken Isman, Ken as well, right? He was also with NFSA, kind of my predecessor there. And Ken was taking a position at University of Maryland as professor of practice. I was organizing a conference for the local chapter of NFSA, the Capital Region Fire Sprinkler Association, joint with the SFP, Society of Fire Protection Engineers, trying to get the contractors and the engineers in the same room. And so, again, I've got this problem. I volunteered. Let's hold a conference. So next thing you know, I'm running the whole thing. And so I reached out to Russ Fleming to speak at the event, and through the course of the conversation, he said to me, he said, "I'm sorry, I'll be speaking in Berlin that week. I can't speak, but have you thought about being the vice president of engineering for the NFSA?" And I was like, Russ, I live in Maryland, and NFSA is in New York. I don't think it's really going to
Right.
work out. And he said, "Well, let's talk." And so next thing you know, I was hired as originally as director of engineering for NFSA, and then was promoted a month after I was hired to vice president of
1 month.
engineering. So yeah, so it was but the intention was that I would be brought on in that role.
Right.
So that opened up my eyes, and at that point in my career, I had been working, I don't know, 20, 25 years. So I thought I knew the industry really well. And it was like these giant curtains opened up, and it was like, ta-da! There's all these other aspects to the industry that I really was unaware of. And so started meeting all kinds of people in the industry, and it was just fascinating. Um, and so a lot of these manufacturers, right? They get a bad rap and all that, but there's some really fantastic people that are in these companies, and especially on the engineering side, these guys are doing some great things, and they never really get the accolades that they deserve. So I got to get get exposed to that, and got to work with some fantastic companies throughout the U.S. Right, got exposed to a lot of different players in the industry. From in the role I was in, I was working with people that were day one on the job, right? New hires, doing layout technician training, and meeting people like, yeah, this is my first day on the job. I don't even know what a sprinkler is. To yeah, the CEOs for these massive companies. So it was everybody in between, and it's kind of a cool function, and it's good because you really see the value of every employee from that person that's there day one all the way up to the people that have been there for years.
Yeah,
So
you've done like a full circle around the industry.
yeah, so I was there for a period, and then I left and got picked up by a small engineering company. Well, yeah, I guess they're not that small, but about 30. I think at that point, about 25 to 30 engineers based out of Las Vegas, and I had talked to the guy. I went to school with him. He was my roommate in college, and I said,
Oh,
yeah, like, hey, Jim, you know, I know you have your own company, and I was interested. I was going to open my own company at that point in time, and he said, well, you can do that, or you can open up an office for me. And so he made me a good offer, and I opened up an office in Maryland and worked there for a while, and then, eventually Summit approached me, and I joined Summit, and really happy, really pleased with what I'm doing. They give me a lot of liberty, and I get to be involved in all these fun things, and and I keep volunteering. I'm on the Fire Prevention Commission for the state of Maryland. So working with the state fire marshal, all fire marshals, inspectors throughout the state. Uh, I took on a role as an adjunct instructor for University of Maryland, so I teach a class there, and I do these speaking events like I was at today. So Monday I spoke at the Mid Atlantic Life Safety Conference, which was fire marshals and inspectors for Delaware, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia, DC. No, DC. So all sort of Mid Atlantic. And Tuesday I taught at the university, and then flew down to Florida yesterday, taught the class this morning, and back here talking with you guys. So
Busy
it's
man. We really appreciate
yeah,
you.
I love
thank
it.
you.
So I love it. Doing some work with the Fire Protection Research Foundation. So it's been fantastic, and you get that by just stepping up, volunteering, and putting yourself out there a little bit.
Can you tell us a little bit about that committee?
What's that? Which
Could you tell us a little bit about that committee?
which one? The Fire Prevention Commission?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So that committee is in charge of is responsible for maintaining the fire prevention code for the state. And so I've been a part of it for a little over a year, and worked through the 2024 fire prevention code updates. So I volunteered and participated in the code update committee, and this state uses NFPA 1 and 10 and NFPA 101. So we modify those, we amend them for our state, and they become the fire prevention code. So it's NFPA 1 and 101. So that is in process right now. So hasn't been adopted yet, hoping that it gets adopted here early 2025. But we meet every other month essentially. And as part of that, the state fire marshal comes in and gives us an update on what's going on with the state. And we hear about all the issues that are coming up. And our state also has a fire protection engineer, Ken Bush, who he's been involved probably close to 50 years. And he chairs the NFPA 1 committee and a number of other central NFPA committees. So, get the opportunity to work with people like that as well. And so he comes in, and we learn about different things, like somebody storing wood under one of the bridges under Route 95, right? And how do you handle that? Because it's sort of in a city jurisdiction, but it's really it impacts the highway, right? So
Right.
we do code hearings for the entire state. So if somebody has an appeal, they have an issue with an inspector or fire marshal, it would go to the commission for hearing. So yeah, so
That's pretty big right there.
yeah,
You're involved. You're super involved.
it's again, it's the way you learn, it's the way you give back, right? And a lot
Mm.
of times it's like if you know something and you're not sharing, shame on you. That's the way I look at it,
Yes, I like
right?
that. I like
Yes.
that a lot.
Um,
I love just sharing, share the knowledge, just share it,
yeah,
spread the good, no, the good info.
yeah.
Whatever you have, I try to teach anything. I'm not holding anything back.
No, nothing.
I don't like gatekeeping. So we have the sprinkler nerd, which is it's Donnie, and he's from Maryland. He says it's nice to see another Marylander, and it's crazy how far to see something simple as the sprinkler head has come from his original sprinkler head's multi-spray pattern. He's also saying, how can we get involved? He's done plenty of work at College Park, so he's right in your area in Maryland.
Um, well, it's you got to. I guess there's a couple of ways, right? So we have in Maryland in particular, we have AFSA, which meets. There's Chesapeake chapter of the AFSA. They meet periodically. If if you know Danielle Fowler with Potter, she does the mailings for that group. And then we also have the Capital Region Fire Sprinkler Association. Um, Taryn Hopkins is pretty much point man there.
Okay.
Um, and those two groups are a good starting point. We also have the SFPE. Start attending some of those chapter meetings. We meet at the University of Maryland.
Can he just show up?
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, I think you want to sign up ahead of time because
Oh,
usually
okay.
they're buying lunch or sometimes it's a happy hour, but just so you can get a head count. But you have to kind of put yourself out there.
Okay.
That's one way to do it. But it's volunteering for things. Everybody's looking for people to help out with something. Right now, there's a lot of discussion, and one of the things that I think all of these organizations, and it also includes AFAA, the American Fire Alarm Association, or the Automatic Fire Alarm Association, and the Fire Suppression Systems Association. They meet in Hanover, Maryland. So
So many
all of these
options.
groups, what's that?
So many options.
Yes, but
Get on it, Big Donnie.
everybody is looking for outreach for high school students to come into these industries because the high school students get exposed to HVAC, electrical, plumbing, those kinds of things. They don't even know sprinklers are a
Ex
trade,
Exists. Yeah,
And I think
exactly.
that
right?
we
That's what we talk
are,
about a lot.
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
it's we're our worst enemy in that factor.
and we have the same issue with the fire protection engineering. So it's like, why limit, right? Give people options, do the outreach together. And so that's one area where you can have immediate impact, is to get involved and start doing some outreach to high school students.
We got
Um,
Kendall Lindicote.
yeah,
Lindicote. I promise every association is thrilled to have new, enthusiastic people. Seriously, we all
100%.
gotta be helping out. We all gotta be helping out in our areas. See, and that was already an hour, Mark.
Wow.
He's 5 minutes from
We
Hanover.
Yeah, we have to have you back on. We got to continue this conversation.
Yeah, you're a fountain of knowledge.
I have lots of useless information in my head, man.
I mean, I
We
learned
can't
some
wait to
stuff.
hear it.
I learned some stuff from you in this past hour or so, and I think others did too.
That's awesome.
The most
Well,
underrated
a-
industry. You should have Danielle on the
anytime,
show.
anytime. I told you I don't know how to say no. So,
Joe Saffer says we
Right.
should have Danielle on our show. Danielle, is that something Janine can hook us up with? How do we get a hold of Danielle?
Danielle Fowler,
Yeah.
I
Well,
can send you her contact.
okay.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, we'll reach out. We'll get her on. Just like today, our industry never talked about it's needed. Yeah, we're the most underrated industry. I can't believe that was already an hour. Wow. Well, everybody that's watching, tuning in. We got 17 live viewers right now. Really appreciate you guys. We go live on Thursdays now. Thursdays, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard. If we're not going live, we usually announce it. If we don't announce it, we're going live. Sometimes sometimes depending, If we have the time and the energy, we really gas it up. But other times, just be expecting us to go live on Thursdays, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard. If you want to get yourself a Dope and Tape hat or shirt, you can get it at the top right there at the My Spread Shop link. And as always, thank you to our sponsor, FireTech, learning.firetech.com. We got new options coming, right, Bri? Got a meeting on that soon?
That's right.
We'll tell
Yes.
you. We'll give you guys a update on that when we get the info. And yeah, really appreciate you guys. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, hit the like button, turn on the notifications at the bell so you can get a notification every time we go live. If you are waiting for us to go live, the best thing to do is be on the page, be on the YouTube page, and hit refresh at like 9:01. Hit refresh at 9 o'clock, and as soon as we go live, you'll see it on the page, and then you can click it. Other than that, you got anything, Bri?
Yeah. The new I just got the new Brunt boots, and I'm not wearing this weekend, and I like them. I think they're a little different.
They are different, and I was talking about that. And I actually got the two of them here, but this is the newer one, and it's got like the new leather compared to I don't know how much you can really see it, but new,
You can feel
old.
it.
You can feel it. It's better leather, no?
Yeah, I
I
think
got I
so.
got a couple pairs. I've been testing.
Right. So if you want a pair of Brunt boots, you want a discount, you can do DNT 10 at the checkout.
DNT 10, dope and tape.
Save
DNT
you some
10.
money.
Appreciate you guys. Mark,
Thank
thanks
y'all.
again.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, man, we'll be in touch. Appreciate you.
Yeah, appreciate you too.